The Pixel 7a has just come out, and I've been using it for a couple of weeks already. And in this whole lifelong series of iPhone user switches to Android, this video should be an interesting one. And that is because the Pixel 7a is priced exactly the same as an iPhone SE at £449. Now, if this is your first time watching, then my name is Pete, and up until recently, I have been a lifelong iPhone user ever since the iPhone came out. But like many, I've been getting a bit bored of the iPhone recently, like minor spec bumps, no design changes, and very little innovation has pushed me to seek what else is out there. And as it turns out, Android has a whole lot to offer. And since my wife has used an iPhone SE for a year, and I've been using a Pixel 6, Pixel 7, Pixel 7 Pro for a while now, I thought this would be a really interesting comparison because the iPhone SE is such a bad choice here. Now, as far as specs go, they are two totally different beasts. And on paper, the Pixel offers quite a number of advantages. You've got a larger, brighter 90Hz OLED screen with 429 pixels per inch versus a smaller LCD screen at 326 pixels per inch. You've got two rear-facing cameras at higher megapixels versus just one. Of course, you have Pixel's latest gen Tensor G2 versus the now 2-year-old but still current A15 Bionic as per the iPhone 14. You've got unlock via face and fingerprint versus just Touch ID. You've got better battery life, double the amount of storage, and also, if you check the fine print, double the warranty of 2 years versus just 1 from Apple. In fact, on paper, the only areas where the iPhone wins on specs is with slightly faster wired charging speeds and the fact you can also opt for up to 256 gig storage, even though that then puts the iPhone at over £150 more expensive than the Pixel 7a. Now, the fact that the iPhone SE comes with just 64 gig of storage is pretty bad in 2023. Now, I restored all of my apps to the SE and discovered that I have just 2 gig of space left. So unless you aren't really planning on actually installing any apps, you're gonna wanna spend even more money to upgrade to more storage. And when you take into account that the cost to make the iPhone is around about £224 versus the Pixel's cost price of around £336, well, it kind of shows. But specs aren't the be-all and end-all of a device, and certainly not a Apple versus Android comparison here, because there are so many nuances between the two. For me, the iPhone SE is still a great option for those who want to stay in the Apple ecosystem. You know, it's a tremendously small phone with all of the familiar features that the world has come to expect from an iPhone of, well, any size. But the Pixel 7a represents the next, like, evolutionary step up for those, you know, myself included, who want to experience life outside of Apple. Now, we get a design that's so un-Apple that's still small enough to hold in one hand, but with all around better features. And with an edge-to-edge screen on the Pixel that makes the iPhone SE look and feel a bit like a 5-year-old phone and not a current generation iPhone whatsoever. And yes, the iPhone has the whole Apple ecosystem thing going for it, but the Pixel has a lot to offer, even at their budget level of the 7a. Now, the 7a has their flagship Tensor processor. You still get all of the flagship features of their Pixel 7 and 7 Pro, but squeezed into this smaller, more compact form factor. Other than a few hardware differences here with the cameras, it's like if Apple squeezed an iPhone 14 or 14 Pro Max into an SE. Now, the Pixel's feature set is one that, for me, I really enjoy, like over and above other Android devices like Samsung Galaxy devices, and it's why I am really like super excited to see the Pixel Fold is coming out soon as well. Now, before I get onto my favorite features, I want to say a quick thank you to 1Password, who have once again kindly offered to sponsor this video, and they are sponsoring it because regular viewers will know that I am not a fan of using those built-in password managers that come, you know, built into your web browser or your phone. Firstly, it makes it an absolute pig to switch devices, and secondly, you can store so much more than passwords. And speaking of which, 1Password have recently announced a passwordless passkeys features, that's a mouthful, that allows you to never have to create or remember unique passwords again. Now, using the app, you can use either Face ID on an iPhone or fingerprint on your Android phone to sign into your apps and your websites in seconds. It is touted as the future of passwords due to it being more secure, and I, for one, as someone with far too many logins, am ready for this kind of future. I have worked with them for the longest time now, and I'm genuinely a happy 1Password user myself, and you can get a 25% discount on a personal or a family subscription using the link down below. And once again, huge thank you to 1Password. And now on to the Pixel 7a's features. Now, there are a ton of features on the Pixel, so here are my top 3 features of the Pixel 7a and why you should consider picking the 7a up instead of the iPhone SE, along with some of the downsides around Android in general and my thoughts on those as well. Now, the first that hands down is just incredible, and I use it all the time, it's the Google Assistant. You can use voice dictation on pretty much any app, and it works so well on the Pixel. It adds all the punctuation that you need into your messages without having to say it. You can also quickly tap any misspelled words to correct them. You can add emojis, sad face. And I love that you can literally just say send to send messages without any awkward pause or waiting for Siri to be all like, would you like to send it? Now, I have heard stories from long-time Android users about how Google Assistant can be quite bad at times, but I'm not sure they're used to how Siri normally performs. The number of times I've been on a phone call or a video call and Siri will just kick in on my watch or my phone. How many times has that happened to you? And when you do try to dictate something with Siri, you may as well not have bothered because it's so inaccurate that it is quite laughable. Now, as an Apple user, it doesn't feel like Siri has evolved at all since it was launched. Now, I really hope that changes, but right now, it's pretty bad. Now, you can also use the assistant features such as call screening to have the Google Assistant answer your phone calls and ask who the person calling is, and it will then transcribe what they say to your screen so you can decide whether to answer it or not. And the ability to translate between languages on the fly is an absolute dream when you're traveling. Now, the next feature, let's call it that, on the Pixel 7a is the camera. Now, you get a 64 megapixel main camera lens and a 13 megapixel ultra wide lens. Now, I know everyone has their personal preferences over what makes a good photo, but I love how photos look on this Pixel and just Pixels in general. They are more vibrant, the focus is great, and I just find myself taking more Instagram-worthy photos on my Pixel than I do on, well, even the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Now, yes, it can sometimes miss with edge detection on portrait photos, but when you put the iPhone SE and the Pixel 7 side by side, I just don't think it is any competition, and I would take the Pixel 7a over the iPhone SE hands down every time. Now, you get a ton of camera features on the Pixel as well. Night sight, long exposures, panoramas, and Google Lens where you can literally snap a photo of almost anything and it will show you what it is. And just the fact that you're shooting photos in 64 megapixels on the Pixel versus just 12 megapixels on the iPhone just means you have a bit more freedom to crop in without the images getting all, pixelated. Now, with that said, video is the one area where most people will agree that the iPhone just does better. But when it comes to the Pixel 7a versus specifically the iPhone SE, I actually disagree here. I think the Pixel 7a gives you equally good video, but it takes it a step further because of having the two lenses, as well as the ability to pause recording, something you don't get on the iPhone. So yeah, I think for the first time in a very long time, I'm gonna rate the Pixel as good as, if not better, than the iPhone for video, at least with the iPhone SE. Now, the third thing, and it's a really simple one here, but having an always-on display is just so useful. Like, the number of times I would just tap my iPhone's home button to just wake the screen up to check the notifications or time was just crazy. But the Pixel 7a comes with its always-on display on, by default, which means you can just glance to see the time, the date, the weather, any apps that are notifying you at the time. I just find it really great. Now, of course, we do have a ton of other features on the Pixel. We've got Face Unblur, which kind of makes your blurry photos look good. Magic Eraser, which basically takes objects out of your photos completely easily with just circling things with your finger. The whole customizability of the phone as well. But as far as the downsides go, there are a few that I just want to talk about here. Shutter lag. Now, shutter lag is something that I experience on most Android phones. And there's a couple of ways that this happens. Now, firstly, with a Pixel, your phone actually takes the photo when you lift your finger off of the button, compared to the iPhone, where it takes the photo when you first tap your button. Now, it is really hard to show this, but hopefully you can see from this video that when I snap a photo and quickly move it and release the shutter, the Pixel's photo is snapped when I take my finger away, whereas the iPhone's is taken at the moment I pressed it. Now, the second is that, yes, if you just tap away mindlessly on the shutter button, yes, the iPhone will take more pictures and the Pixel will miss a few, but you are better off by just holding the button down. Now, the iPhone will snap a lot of photos and the Pixel does what looks like recording a video, but actually if you go into that video and then swipe up, you can then go into and see the images that comprise that video. And then you can just save whichever frame you like as the full image. Now, the next one is that many people, myself included, think that Android phones are just a slow and horrible experience of a phone. But you also have the benefit here of Google Tensor 2 versus the now 2-year-old A15 Bionic in the iPhone. And my wife actually had one of these for a whole year and it can get really, really slow at times. Like, she hated the camera, she found it extremely slow at times, and the battery life, The battery life is pretty awful on here. Now you can see this now, even with both of these phones fairly freshly out of the box, opening apps on the Pixel is continually faster than the iPhone. And all you need to do with that is throw in the iPhone warming up in the summer whilst uploading your photos to the web, whilst you try to open an app or snap some photos, and you suddenly have a very, very frustratingly unresponsive and slow iPhone. So as far as performance goes, again, the Pixel wins hands down here. But with all the good things, there are a few things worth mentioning here. Now, the back of the phone is an absolute dust magnet and a fingerprint magnet, as you can see here as well. And that's just due to the material that it's made of. The 90 Hz display, weirdly, switched off out of the box, but you can just switch that back on again. And the screen isn't the brightest to look at in direct sunlight, although it is actually brighter than the iPhones. But given this is £50 more expensive than last year's 6A, I still think this is well worth the upgrade from last year's 6A. But as I've already said, it's not all about the specs. Now, there is a lot of value placed on being in the Apple ecosystem, the seamless integration of everything. And Pixel and Android in general has still a way to go. Honestly, I think Google and their Pixel range have the best chance, though Samsung's probably already slightly ahead in my eyes. But there's the Pixel Watch, the Pixel Buds, Pixel Tablet. I already have a number of their Pixel Smart Display devices around the house, so they are getting there, but nobody is currently able to match Apple on their ecosystem. Not yet, anyway. And if you want to see what I mean about that, then go and watch this video to find out more.